Hi guys, my name is Maria Park and welcome to Approach the Nerd. And I have a special guest from across the pond in the good kingdom of United, Victoria Rain. I have posted her links below, so please go subscribe and like and love all of the content. In this episode, we are discussing mixed representation in media and sometimes lack thereof. And we're going to start with a show that both of us are into called The Bold Type. It is about three millennials trying to make it at this really hotty-toddy, ritzy-bitsy magazine called Scarlet and all of their problematic, and superficial problems. And the episode that is more related to this collaboration is about the character Kat Edison, who is biracial. Her father is Black, her mother is white. But for some reason, it was very problematic for her to say she was biracial in this episode. So I'm going to start with Victoria because, I like to talk. So I'm going to let her get her words in. And so she can tell you what she thought of this episode, and we'll just take it from that point.
So I think for me, at first, I was very excited because I was like, wow, finally, mainstream show. They've tackled a lot of other issues. They're finally doing the mixed race issue. Let's do this. I'm ready. And then it began and I was like, okay, I can see where this is going. And I think for me, what really stood out, or one of the many things that stood out, was that her questioning her identity came from someone outside. And when I say that, it wasn't family, it wasn't a close friend, it was, to be honest, it was someone she worked with. Alex wasn't a close friend, he was just a colleague. And it was him questioning her decision that kind of led us down this path. And I think that is realistic in the way that society often is the ones labeling mixed race people, and it's often external people trying to tell us what to do. However, for me, the intentions was there, it just didn't come off. For example, when it was a question of how her parents were wrong for raising her to not really see race and just to see herself as what she is, which is both. And then somehow they were villainized for that. And that was just, annoying. I could go on. But, I'm just going to hand the baton back over so you can have your piece.
I love that. Well, you're right, though. Like, I think those were the moments that stood out for me. You have Alex. Now, if you've watched The Bold Type, technically there are two Black regular characters. I always forget the head of wardrobe's name, but he's also gay. So he's also got the gay representation along with Kat, who identifies as bisexual. And I'm going to make a really interesting point about that in a second. And then we have Alex. And Alex, for a while, I hate to say this, but he was a token Black guy. He just is. He was a token Black guy in this show because the two lead ladies are white. And then the third lead lady is half white. So we don't even have a full Black person or person of color. She is mixed, no matter how you look at it. She even looks mixed. She does not look like she's not mixed. So for Alex, they were talking and Kat was like, well, I want them to really see my character. My race doesn't matter. And Alex was like, oh, that's called you not liking your Blackness. I feel like that's internal racism. I'm like, what? And she's like, but all I said was, I'm also half white. You don't see me putting white on my form. And he's like, well, that's different. How is that different, though? How is that different? Because if you are half Black and you're half white, are you trying to tell her that her white mother doesn't matter? Because, I know how it is here in the States, guys. I understand within the Black community, we don't even get along with each other. Even lighter skinned Blacks and darker skinned Blacks have a lot of colorism issues with each other. I understand this. But we're talking about a woman who has a Black father and a white mother. And Alex basically listened to this woman tell her. Kat gave this whole sobbing story saying, whenever I was taking tests at school, I felt if I said I was Black, that means I didn't love my mom. If I said I was white, it means I didn't love my dad. And Alex's response to that was, well, you're an adult now. Oh, so when you're an adult, your problems don't matter anymore. Those issues don't matter. No, what I'm telling you is you need to say you're Black and that's it. Get over yourself. And then to add on to that, you pointed out with the parents, the mother even said, I didn't want to be your white mom. I just wanted to be your mom. And the dad's like, I went through a lot of racism. I didn't want you for that. Well, you were wrong for that. You just sheltered me from the world and made me see the world through rose colored glasses. I'm like, no. Okay, well, me sheltering you is me paying for your, $3,500 apartment that I pay for in Manhattan every month. That is sheltered. Me just not wanting you to see what it's like to be basically persecuted for what you look like, who you love, and the color of your skin. That's completely different. And yeah, they villainized her parents, which was insane to me. And then even when she decided to just say she was Black, she even said, well, I'll be Black for right now because this is what matters. And I'm like, well, you can do that? Like, so now not only is she not biracial, she's a Black transformer.
He's optional.
I think what really got on my nerves, and this is also coming from a woman who identifies as queer, I'm in an LGBT marriage, she got so in her feelings in another episode about biphobia. Whereas, people are always like, oh, well, bisexuals don't exist, or they cheat, or they're blah, 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 which is true. Biphobia is a thing. Why are you such an advocate for your biphobia sexual identity, but not for your mother and father, your two races, basically what make up who you are? And that is why the bold type failed in that episode for me. And it really got my feelings when I was watching all the Twitter and like Facebook and YouTube comments, just praising the biracial conversation. And I'm like, look at us. We are not dark-skinned women. We're just not. If you look at us, we can be identified as a lot of different things other than Black or white. If we were in this episode and we said we were the first Black anything in the real world, we would be canceled. Because, and for people that are like, nah, I'll give you examples. There are a lot of shows on Netflix. There's one I think Family Reunion, and they have a young girl. I want to say her character's name is Jay, but she's lighter than me. She's very light skinned. She's got curly red hair. When they cast her in this role, people were literally saying on Twitter, oh, you had to get a white girl. You couldn't find a Black girl to play this role. Now she's half Black and she's half white, but because she looks a lot lighter than everybody else in the cast, they were in their feelings, which I thought was interesting because one of the Mari sisters, I don't know if it's Tia or Tamara, plays her mother, and she's biracial in real life, and they didn't say a damn thing about it. So this is not an equal biracial conversation, because honestly, what I've learned, especially by watching series or shows and episodes like this, is that it's not about what you identify. It's not about what your parents are. It's how you look to them. That is how they cast you, and that is how they see you. And so your identity doesn't matter to them, and it never will. And it's sad. It's really, really sad. But yeah, so we're going to stop talking about the bold type for now, because I know you guys don't want to see smoke coming out of my ear. So let's go on to some more examples. So Victoria is amazing. She sent me this beautiful outline because I am an improv girl. I just, and she's like, let me put some organization in your life. Yeah, I need structure. I do that with work and voiceover stuff, but yeah, my YouTube channel, I just kind of wing it and pray, but pray and edit. But we have a few things on here that we can talk about. Now, I've never watched this show, so I'm going to have them a little bit out of order. So Dear White People, I haven't seen this film or the TV show. I know of it. I've seen the trailer for it, but it's just, as a review channel, I never had a chance of watching it because I'm watching so many other things. I don't have time. So I will let you talk about this one, since you know a little bit more about it than I do.
Yeah, so admittedly, I haven't watched it in a while, because I watched the film. I didn't bother with the series because I was like, it's just going to be like the film, to be honest. So I watched the film when it first came out. And the reason why I kind of added this is the whole concept of the film is the typical sort of, dear white people, these are things that annoy me, in terms of like touching my hair, asking me what my race is, asking me where I'm really from. And so the whole idea of the film, I think, is really good. And we have like characters who kind of play up to the various stereotypes. We have the one character who is more darker skinned but desperately wants to fit in, so it'll be like wearing straight weave and like trying to do everything the white group are doing. And then you've also got some of the scandals that came out of America in terms of there was like frat parties or like sorority parties where they had blackface, and so they like played on that as well. So from that angle it was really good. But then what stood out for me was the main character, and she's mixed race, her dad is white, her mum is black. But for the whole thing, the whole film is basically her trying to prove her blackness, and she becomes the voice of the black movement on the campus. And for me, when I was watching it, I was a bit like, but you're mixed race. Where's the mixed race representation? And what I loved about that is, so her boyfriend was white, and at the end of the film, he basically gave her that reality check, and he was like, listen, you're half white yourself. You need to stop kind of trying to be someone you're not by trying to fit in to a group that, yeah, you can fit into, but it's not necessarily your place to be there. So that's why I like that ending part. To be honest, I don't know how that might have been taken by a non-mixed race person, but I love that.
But because it's true. I mean, I've always felt like I've always had a problem with us not having our own, I don't want to say group, because it sounds like we don't want to be a part of the Black community. We don't want to be a part of whatever we are, but it's not that. It's just that it's such a unique way to live your life and to be raised, because not many people can say that their parents don't match and that their cultures don't match, or their, the way they speak. My mother spoke Gaelic. My dad is from the South in America. I mean, that's very drastically different. And so not many people have had that exposure. And if you've never been what I like to call the spectacle of your city or town, where you go with your parents out to eat dinner in a restaurant and you seem to be the dinner show, you don't know what that's like. So it's almost like having a group is like a support group for people that are of interracial families. And it's just, people don't, especially here in the States, that's not really a thing. People want you to just be in a box. They need to label you to understand you. And if they can't understand you, then it's like you don't exist. And as biracial mixed identity is something that is not really a concept in the States. We know what it is. We even had derogatory terms, mulattoes, mighty yellow, like all of these comments, red bones, that's always something that's applied to mixed people. But in reality, it doesn't say anything about us. It's just like, well, what do you think you are? Oh, well, we think you're this, so just claim this. It's literally like they walk into your house and they're like, they look at you and look at your parents and like, well, you look more like that one, so just say you're that. Yes. And then move out. And it's crazy to me. So yeah, I think Dear White People probably was really eye-opening for a lot of people, even if it wasn't for mixed people who probably never really thought about it. Like what it's like to just not be, and we, in America, we got a saying, well, nobody's really 100% anything. True, but it's weirder when it's directly in your house. So I'm like, just saying. So yeah, I think I probably would have enjoyed that too, especially that little realization. It's sad that the white man had to call her out on it. I'm like, girl, you have white. Okay. So speaking of mixed erasure, which happens a lot. All right. So let's talk about Shang-Chi. So Shang-Chi is a new MCU movie that's coming out. It's a very old character. He came out a long time ago. He had a very problematic father. Fu Manchu is very problematic. So they've actually changed his father in the live action representation for racial reasons, for stereotype reasons against Asians. What I found interesting about this is that, and this is a mixed character. He is mixed race, but he's not mixed with Black. He is half Chinese and his mother's European. Mm-hmm. When they decided to do this movie and they cast Simu Liu from Kim's Convenience, if you've seen that on Netflix, his parents emigrated to Canada from China, and China had a fit. They're like, why would you cast this person that we consider to be a traitor for leaving China when you could have had a traditionally Chinese actor play this role? Which tells me right there, being mixed is a universal problem because Shang-Chi has always been half white. Always been half white. This was not like we revamped him to make him more modern and progressive. No. His mother was white. His father was Chinese. Mixed. But in the movie, he's a whole freaking Chinese man is playing him. Nobody says anything about his mixed identity. I mean, think about all the Eurasians out there that would have loved to have had this representation through this at the very first Eurasian character in an MCU movie. But instead, he's the first Asian character in an MCU movie. And it's like, but you mix, it doesn't matter.
But then if you flip it the other way, like with Crazy Rich Asians, and you've got a mixed person playing a fully Asian person, then it's a problem. A lot of take and no give is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and Henry Golden he's fine. He is fine, so he can get it. But I'm just saying that I understand it's very interesting because they did advertise Crazy Rich Asians as being the first all Asian cast, and then they found out that Henry Golden was half British. Now they say he's half British. We don't know what that means. We know he's from the UK, but we don't know we don't know what part of the UK. I guess it's not important, but the other part is Malaysian, and they even broke it down to like the subroots of the indigenous, tribe his mother was from, but his dad was just British. I found that really ironic. But yeah, when they found out that he was half British, they were trying to they weren't trying to cancel him, but yeah, they were in their feelings about it. I'm like, well, then just swap. Have Henry Golden be Shang-Chi character. Problem solved. I don't understand it, but yeah, that is highly problematic. And then it even affects us in animation because the wonderful Victoria educated me on a show called Big Mouth, and so I looked it up. So they have this character named Missy, and originally she was played by a girl named Jenny Slate, who is Cuban. She's mixed with a lot of stuff, but she's half Jewish, half Cuban, and a bunch of other things, but none of it is Black. And so I guess they felt because she didn't have Blackness in her, she was not a card-carrying Black, a Black card-carrying person like we are, she was not qualified to voice this role. And so they replaced her with Ayo. I think you said we were going to call her Adibri. Sure. And and she what did we say she was? Half Nigerian,
half Asian, and half Nigerian.
But none of that is European descent, which means no white. So what you're basically saying is a mixed person only has one option: Black. Like they can only be voiced by a Black person. The irony behind that is that a mixed person gets a lot of crap for playing a Black live action person or character in media. Yes. I don't understand this. I don't. And you cannot tell me they could not find an actress to play this character that is half white and half Black.
But then I think also, I mean, this will feed into other points we'll make that are coming up because they all overlap anyway. Yeah. But it's basically this, to me, I find it laughable because on this hand, I feel like if mixed involves Black, then it has to be Black. If mixed doesn't involve Black, then sure, do what you want. You can be anyone. Anyone can play that person, which to me is insane because it's kind of erasure on two fronts here. We're raising into one group if you fit into this sort of mixed race group. And then if you're this mixed race, well, then you're just other. You can be anyone. And it's like, it's just baffles me.
Yeah. And see, now that you pointed that out, because you're right, it all kind of ties into each other. I need to talk about Charmed, the reboot, not the original, the reboot. 3 sisters. This show was advertised as being Latina, so it's for Latina representation. They did cast one Latina actress, but unfortunately, they decided, which is fine. It's fine to have characters that are diverse because it happens in families. But they decided that the other 2 characters were going to be half Black and half Latina, so Afro-Latina. The problem is they cast Madeline Mantock, who is half British, half Caribbean, and she is I think she actually identifies too as British and Caribbean. I don't think she identifies completely as Black. Although in the States it's different, because I know when a lot of English or British actresses come over here, they kind of conform to what they to work. They just say what they need to say. But I know back when she did the Tomorrow People and the pre-Charm, she did say she was both. And then Sarah Jeffrey, who has almost the exact same mix as me. Her father is Black and Native American, and her mother is European, or like mine is Scottish. So none of these equal Afro-Latina. I'm like, yes. None of them at all equal Afro-Latina. And so the problem that I have is that Hollywood, the fans, even the Black community had no problem with a Black and white actress pretending to be Black and Latina. Now, had this been advertised as Black and had 3 Black sisters, and you cast 1 full Black woman and then the same 2 girls, canceled.
Yeah, whole problem.
Canceled. So yeah, mixed erasure is a thing. And it's also interesting because they kind of treat us like they do with Asians, in Hollywood, where they just cross, like, apparently if you're Asian, you literally can be Chinese, Korean, Malaysian, Vietnamese, any form of Asian, even if you look nothing like the people from these countries, because there is a difference between a Chinese person, a Korean person, a Japanese person. You can see it in their eyes and their bone structure, their cheek structure.
Yeah, definitely.
So I don't understand it. And honestly, that is racist as hell. But for some reason in the Black community, we just accept this. It's like, oh, well, it's not hurting us. You're talking about Latina people. So I don't get it.
But then also, if we voice it like we're voicing it now, and on my channel, I've voiced mixed race in loads of times, and I can see it in the comments, you then have these people that, as you said at the beginning, kind of question either your Blackness or question whether you're really for the people, or and it's like, just because I'm calling something out as wrong, it doesn't mean I'm now suddenly saying, oh, I revoke the Black in me. Like it doesn't really compute for me. Like the two don't have to be so exclusive. Like I can call this out.
Is it more people from the States that you see in the comments, or from the UK that say that?
Oh no, 100% Americans.
That's what I thought. Okay, so that's an interesting concept for your video. We are doing another video that's going to be on Victoria's channel. Basically, we're going to talk about the UK versus US mixed race life. So make sure, and I'll link that too when it's up. I'll drop it in the comments, but or in the description box. But yeah, that tracks with me, because that is absolutely an American thing. And I know that, this country is still very hurt by racism, but it's to the point, to be fair, other minorities are kind of put on the back burner, and their struggles are put on the back burner because of what's happening with BLM. Not saying that BLM is not needed. I'm just saying it's to the extreme, to the point where everything is canceled except for BLM. And, I have a half Asian daughter. I have a Korean American spouse, and I know they get crap for COVID because of our last president. And that is a real thing. And I live in the South. It is very scary. It is very real how they are being blamed for something. And my spouse isn't even Chinese. My daughter is part Vietnamese, and it's like, they're not even from China, but they still get the brunt of that when people get in their feelings. But it's something that is talked about a little bit. But if you talk about it too much, it's almost like you're outshining BLM. So that is a thing that I don't understand either. So it's all terrible. And I need people to see that it's all terrible. And it does not mean that I'm hating my Blackness because I'm helping out other minorities. I feel like if we want allies in this world, we need to be allies ourselves. That is the reality of the situation.
I was just about to say that.
It's that mixed twin thing we got going on.
It is.
Okay, so we had a few other things. We talked about Crazy Rich Asians, Ginny and Georgia. I'm gonna let you start that one off. We both seen this one. This show is a mess.
So I think for a lot of people, based on comments I saw and reviews, a lot of people seem to really like the representation there. For me personally, most of it I did not like. And I'm not saying that's necessarily because it's not realistic, because I'm sure for a lot of people it is. And there were things that I did relate to. So, for example, like her struggle around her hair was something that I had that same struggle about whether or not to straighten it and would I look better, would I fit in, things like that. But what really bugged me is that it was almost like they wanted us to believe that this very attractive woman who, well, teenager, who had these two boyfriends who did not seem to have race be that much of an issue, suddenly her mixed race issue was then like crippling, and she was like just riddled with anxiety, and she didn't want, she all she could think about was race. When on her first day of school, I always forget her name, the black character, the female, she came up to Ginny and was like, hey, do you want to join our group? We can help you out. And she was always trying to be her friend. Yes, there were problematic things that her friends had said. So one of the, not the main friends, but the tag-along friend was who said, I want a black boyfriend so I can have mixed race kids or something like that. And that is something I have heard a lot when I was at school. And I was like, that is weird. You need help.
Yeah, that is actually very problematic. Well, did you ever get when they came up to you and they're like, "Oh, you got that good hair," and I'm like, "What does that mean? Isn't all hair good?" I'm very confused. And then touch your hair and see, I'm a curly girl too. I straighten my hair because I live in Tennessee. Google the humidity, people. If you are a true curly girl, you understand. And I'm not doing the diva curl life. Victoria sent me some very good recommendations that I need to try, but with COVID, I have not been able to find them. So I'm just like, this is going to be an online life for me, apparently. But yeah, I've always had people come up to me and they're like, "Can I touch your hair?" The hell for? Touch your own hair. What's just the hair? What is wrong with you? So yeah, that I did love your point about that too. Being a curly girl, I felt in my feelings in that show, because when she did straighten her hair in in one of the episodes, they all treated her differently. They were like, "Oh, you're acceptable now," and I'm like, "The hell?" What? I don't understand. She has pretty curly hair. I do not understand what the problem was. I love curly hair. I love the textures, from 4A all the way to a wavy 2A. Love it. Yes, I know the numbers. Snap, snap. And but I was so in my feelings about that. And that's not just a mixed trope though. That's also something that a lot of Black women hear.
Yes,
your hair is natural, or your hair is too curly and it's too wild. You should straighten it, or maybe get a wig or whatever to make you less ethnic. And I'm like, no, that's not why we do this. Mine is only because of humidity and frizz. I don't feel like dealing with that drama, but and I don't do it all the time. So, but yeah, so that was a problem that I did have with Ginny and Georgia. But I know you said something about Ginny being identified as Black and Hunter being identified as mixed, which I don't know how I missed this. I'm normally observant, but I think there was so much Jerry Springerness in this show. It went a different way.
I sniff out the mixed race like a hound dog. I'm like, listen.
Like, I got this. I'm in my 40s. I'm tired. But I think, wasn't Hunter half Asian?
Yeah, he was half Taiwanese, half white.
Half white. Okay. So he got to say he was mixed.
Yes, he was allowed that privilege.
But Ginny was not allowed to say that.
Yeah, which I think it feeds into what we were saying earlier, which is why I was saying that all of these kind of link, where if you're half Black, you're Black. If you're half anything else, you can be whatever you want. It's up to you. We don't really care what you are, just do you. Which to me is just baffling. And I think especially because they had that one scene which I really did enjoy, where they were both comparing what it was like being mixed, and like comparing the things people had said to them, comparing what it was like with two different sides of the family, which for me was super relatable, because that's things that I do with mixed race friends. Yeah. And then to have them bonding like that and saying, yeah, we're both mixed, and then at the end of that conversation, Ginny's still Black and he's still mixed. I was like, it doesn't really make sense to me.
and then also on top of that too, because you make a very good point, had she been lighter skinned though, they would not have questioned it. And case in point, back to Charmed, they always gave all of the racism, BLM storylines to Macy, because she was a little bit darker than Maggie. And Maggie never was affected at all, like at all. Now remember, all three of these sisters are women of color. Mm-hmm. Only Macy got racism. Now Mel is fully Hispanic. She's playing a fully Puerto Rican woman. Never had a problem with ICE. Never had anything happen to her racism wise. In Trump America, she never had a problem being Hispanic, Latina, anything in that series, ever. And I thought that was crazy. I thought that was very crazy. On top of that, she's also the only lesbian character. Mm-hmm. Never had a problem with LGBT as well. She had bad relationships, but nobody ever came up to her and said, "Ooh, you're gay," or stare at them weird, or had any type of homophobic reaction. There was none of that in that show. The only thing they addressed was BLM. Mm-hmm. And I don't get that at all. I don't get that at all. Especially if you're going to have a BLM storyline, then please have a BLM storyline with somebody who is not, yes, she's a little dark, mm-hmm. but she looks very ambiguous.
Yeah.
Find a person of color.
100%.
Black. And have the BLM storyline with them. It's stupid to have two sisters with the same dad and the same mom, but one's lighter skinned, so doesn't get anything. And then the other one's darker skinned and gets all of it. Because yes. I will say there is a little realism to it, because I don't get called out for being black. If I get in a car right now, I'm never going to be pulled over for being black. I will be asked to show my ID, my social security number, to make sure I'm not from Mexico. I've had that. So I will have that, which is not fun by any stretch of any imagination.
It sounds scary.
I make sure to take my ID with me wherever I go, because they don't play here. So it's sad because I'm not even Hispanic or Latina. I haven't even been to Mexico. So if you deport me, I'm screwed. But, I find it very interesting that based on how you look as a mixed person is also how they choose to identify you, not you. I could say all day I'm black. It doesn't matter what I say.
They don't care. They don't care.
They don't care. I start every video and stream off for the most part, especially live streams, claiming my blackness, because if I don't claim my blackness, I feel like people are going to think I hate black people. I have been called out saying that I hate black people. And I'm like, I'm half black. It's like you basically saying I hate half of who I am. And it's so weird to me that you can't have an opinion about something without your blackness being called in. It's like this club that you're never fully a part of when you're mixed, that you can't be a part of when you're mixed because of, one, how they perceive you, and two, you always have that little shaky temporary card that may or may not get you in the door. But yet you always have to say, you have to be a full-on sponsor of this club that are not a full-on sponsor of you. And that is a problem.
100%.
That's a problem. And then we had Spider-Man. And now Spider-Man was our last example on the list. And this goes kind of, again, ties in with all the other ones, because Miles Morales has been identified as the first Black Spider-Man. Well, the problem is that his mother is Hispanic. So he's actually Afro-Latino. And when people say that, people get up in arms like, no, Miles Morales is Black. I'm like, but you can't erase his Hispanic mama. You can't, I don't care what you do. She's not going anywhere. So I'm like, I don't understand.
The DNA.
I've come to the conclusion that if you're Black and white, you're Black. Mm-hmm. If you're Black and Hispanic, you're Black. If you're Hispanic and white, then you may have a shot at being Hispanic. And I don't know which is worse at this point now. It's like, I don't know, because that was an eye opener for me, was Miles Morales. I'm like, the Reddit comments alone were insane to me. But I mean, even with Shang-Chi, if you go and look up Shang-Chi when they first announced it, a lot of people that were posting, Asian Americans, were in their feelings saying they should have had a Chinese man, blah, blah, blah. None of them realized that this is a whole freaking half white character. I'm like, how did you not? Well, I don't understand. I mean, when you get passionate, guys, make sure you do the research first before you make yourself look stupid, because it just doesn't make sense to be in your feelings over a character that would never have been traditionally Chinese, because they're half white and they weren't raised, for most of their life in China. And even if they were, China and Japan, they call us halfus, they don't really have a huge respect or acceptance for half Asian, half anything else children. If you are not purely Chinese, purely Korean, purely Japanese, it is very taboo over there. So I mean, like, you got to understand your audience, guys. Shang-Chi was never meant to be Chinese completely. Stop erasing mixed people.
Though, in many ways, for me, and I've mentioned this in some of my previous videos, it's erasure on two fronts. Because, so for example, with Spider-Man, so he's mixed race, but he's being called black. So therefore, when the first genuine black Spider-Man would come along, he wouldn't be the first, because we've already had a first, but we haven't had a first black, we've had a first mixed race. So it's like, it's erasing on both fronts, and it feeds into, because I feel like mixed race people in general are sometimes held responsible for the decisions of these like Hollywood companies. Like, for example, when mixed race people are cast in these black roles, we then have that thrown in our faces, which I've had in my videos. Well, you're taking all our roles. And I'm like, last time I checked, I wasn't in Hollywood.
I need to work.
Not me.
Look, mama's got rent.
But all of this, the decisions to put these mixed race people in these roles, is depriving someone of the full race from the opportunity. But then it also kind of makes it bad for us, because then we're trying to prove our point, but then Hollywood's just not backing us up here.
And then plus it doesn't help with the temporary black card status either, because it is like, okay, well, we let you in the club and then look what you did. Now you got to work to get back in. I mean, it's just like, what is happening? But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, even looking at Charmed, the actress who played Sarah Jeffrey, who plays Maggie, she's played fully Hispanic characters, because in Shade of Blue, she played Jennifer Lopez's daughter. And again, she is not Latina, Hispanic at all. Zero. Now, we like to call things like that cultural appropriation, but unfortunately, or I guess for her, fortunately, because she's mixed, I guess she has immunity. I don't know how that works. We can't play half of ourselves fully, but we can play a fully Latina character, a Hispanic character that's not even our culture, and nobody bats an eye. Nobody has a problem with it. It is not even called out.
It is insane.
But
then also on the reverse, what was it? Was it Zoe Saldana who did? Who did she? Nina Simone.
Nina Simone, yeah.
And obviously, rightly, she was called out for that, and she did blackface. But I'm like, on the reverse, there's an outcry, but then why isn't the same energy there in the other reverse? Like, I just wish, basically, just keep the energy, okay?
Yeah, or just make more roles for mixed people.
Yes.
And then there will be no issues, because then we'll have our own roles, and then we won't have to be taking other roles. Because I do agree with you. I think it goes back to the whole Kat Edison in Bold Type. By her saying she was the first Black social media editor, if somebody else came behind her, and they truly were, both their parents were Black, they identified as Black, they had beautiful Lupita Nyong'o hotness going on, they couldn't come behind her and say, well, I'm the first Black one, you're just biracial, because she's already taking that role. And people accepted that. But in reality, that they would not accept it. And that's another problem with that conversation, is you just set up an expectation for people looking at this who think they can say this, and then they go to their job in real life and they're like, yeah, have you looked in the mirror, lady? Like, no, ma'am. So, set up to fail.
A good example of this in real life in the UK is Meghan Markle. So she's mixed race. When she first came out, it was like the first Black princess, the first Black princess, the first Black royal. And then there was public outcry, because we were all like, she's mixed race, she's not Black. And then that has now changed to now she's being called mixed race, as she is. But had that sort of rhetoric continued, she would have taken the place of the first Black princess in the royal. I mean, she's not a princess anyway, but Duchess.
Duchess. I was like, did she get promoted? I mean, hey, you're over there. I'm not. Maybe she did.
Well, I think they've been kind of demoted at the moment. But yeah, so she would have taken the role of the first Black. And media here, which again is something we'll go into in my video, media here was very quick to push her as the first Black, because they saw someone who wasn't white and they were like, hey, she must be Black. And it took society basically and other mixed race people standing up saying, no, she's mixed race, because here it wasn't just white people calling her Black. We did have a lot of Black people calling her Black as well. But it just goes to prove the point you were saying in terms of the representation and taking the place that doesn't belong to us.
Yeah. And see, when we get to your video, we'll talk about Obama, because it's the opposite here. If we had a royal family here, but still had the history of slavery, and
you could have had a royal family, you got rid of us.
hey, only half of me did. I'm a traitor. I have a British passport and a U.S. passport. I have been in the UK and in the U.S. So if stuff goes down here, I'm hopping the plane. But I didn't celebrate 4th of July because my mother was British. I'm like, hey, Mom, guess what we're celebrating right now? But no, just say hypothetically, we still had a royal family. Well, if this situation had happened and Meghan Markle and they were white and she got married in, she would have been the first Black Duchess, because they would not have called her biracial. They would not have called her mixed. Zendaya, I think, called herself biracial in an interview and almost got canceled years ago. And she's biracial. like, she is biracial. It is a thing, guys. We are not magical fairies. It exists scientifically. My running joke, if I go to the hospital and I'm in line to get skin cancer from my Scottish mother and then kidney disease and diabetes from my Black father, my one dropness is not going to exclude my skin cancer, pretty much odds, because you think that that's what's going to happen by me saying that I'm Black. It's not. Scientifically, my genes are still going to play out. So I don't understand why people don't see us as both. I've never understood that. And then here in the States, it goes further. Whenever you're Black and white, if they do call you biracial, they call you Black biracial. I don't understand what that means, because it sounds like you're Black and then you got two more races. It's like, you're Black. Oh, you're Black biracial.
That's quite interesting, actually, the way it's broken down.
Yeah, right? Like, wait, what? And then the whole thing, and this is probably more for your other video, and we'll just talk about it again, since this one's going on my channel. It's not like I'm repeating. So another thing they say is whatever your father is in this country is what you are. So I love my Blackness, guys, but my father's father was full-blooded Apache. So my dad was mixed. He just looks completely Black. His mother was Black. His father was Native American. So what the hell am I then? Because again, I've always said I was Black and white first, and then I throw in the Native. I've always been, I don't have as much familiarity completely with my Native American side, because he was raised on reservations and they weren't in the same states. And I'm a military brat. We moved around our whole lives. So I know it's there. I see it, but I don't have as strong a connection completely with that side than I do with Black and Scottish. So I don't understand. I've never understood any of it, to be honest with you. The one drop, the whole, I get to tell you what you are. You are a human being, and at this point a grown ass adult, but we still get to put you in a box and you have no say over it. If you have a say over it, then you're confused, brainwashed, and racist. I've never understood that. But having these conversations, even when we talk about media, I'm already seeing a difference, because the outcry of mixed people, that's not even something I would ever hear in the US. There's no such thing as the outcry of mixed people. There are no mixed people that are going to get together and say anything in the States. So that's interesting to me. I mean, I'll say it, but they don't listen. So
I do find, just going quickly back to your point about you are what your father is, that's something I've had a lot on my videos as well. And eventually I got tired and I replied to one, and they didn't reply back, because I said, this is a great argument. My dad's white, so am I white now? And
it's because you confused them. That was not supposed to happen. Well, and then you also had the added bonus that your father was white in the UK. Now, if he had been white in the States, then you would have got the regular, oh, well, that's also what happened in slavery speech. But
Yes.
you can't do that with you because you don't have the same history. So you get to be mixed. That's it. In the UK, I get to be mixed all day. My British citizenship gives me that right. My US citizenship tells me what I am, what I cannot be. And if I don't like it, I'm racist. So America. It's sad. I'm sad. I'm probably gonna cancel after that comment, but it's staying. Yeah. I'm not editing out. They know who I am. They know what they can do. But yeah, I think those were all of the examples that we had. And overall, I think our overall consensus is Hollywood, number one, is messed up. Messed up across. When they say they are trying for representation, I don't know who they're representing because it's not us.
And we're on different sides of the world and we've got the same opinion.
I don't know where. I mean, to be honest, I've never understood half of the representation stories that they come up with, because they don't, like, every so often you will see something that kind of like it seems like it's your life, but then it goes drastically a different way. It's like drastically, like even like with Kat sitting with her parents and talking about race, and they're talking about, oh, we just want people to see your merits and your personality and you as a person before your skin color. Everybody should want that. That's called equality. Why? But no, that is wrong. You are ignorant, and that is rose-colored glasses. Oh, people.
She wanted to suffer her whole life. That's what she wanted.
That's what she wanted. Well, I mean, the character suffers all on her own. I mean, let's be clear. If there's any entitlement in that show, it's how much, I think you even said this in your video, how much her apartment costs, how much she paid for her nails and her hair weekly. She was literally the only one that could afford half of the clothes by herself that they were giving for free at the magazine. So I don't hear that. You got entitlement. You want entitlement.
Yeah, she's got that wealth entitlement. I'd love that too.
Hell, she even got the job because of her parents' connections. I mean, just saying. Just saying. Just putting it out there. All right, guys, that has been our mixed representation in media, or lack thereof. We want to know what you think, so please put a comment below and let us know. Make sure, again, to go to Victoria Rain's channel, link below, subscribe and like and watch and learn. She also does Thai videos. She's been studying Thai, which is
have.
Sometimes I watch them because I'm studying Korean. I speak Japanese, but I'm studying Korean with my spouse, which is challenging. So I love watching people struggle along with me. And you actually seem to be pretty versed in Thai. So if you're into that, guys, check those videos out too. Learn a little. And as always, guys, thank you for approaching the nerd, and make sure to check out the video that will be posted in the links or description box on Victoria's channel. All right, bye, guys.
Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate it, but hey, the party doesn't have to stop now. Click on one of these videos and keep it going.